say, remember what? And I'm going to let people in.
So we're sorry I was late. I'll talk to you about it later.
Yeah.
So I see that it says it's in focus mode.
I'm going to take that off.
Okay.
Trying to figure out how to do that. Focus mode shows the views of the hosts.
Oh yeah, now it says
the hosts.
focus mode is ending.
Right. I don't know exactly what it shows in the difference. Yeah. See, now I didn't see the red circles at first. Now I see the red circles in the Finder. It's funny. They were lost in the sauce for a second. Okay. Welcome, Jay. We're just getting started. Welcome, Tiki. Good to see you. Let me see. Maybe I will show on video participants. So we just have a few of those coming. Usually it takes people a few minutes to show up. We have a good list of people who had signed up and some late entrants. Casper is going to enter into the chat. We should like to showcase. Hi, Jay. We like to showcase how we try to introduce folks. These calls so far have been intimate as we're getting this started. So it gives the ability for us to get to know some of the challenges of some of the folks who are there and some of the folks who are here, and be really interactive as opposed to being a presentation. So the things we want to talk about as people are coming. I'm talking and nobody can hear me. Good afternoon, everybody. We're about 5 minutes after the kickoff time, so we like to get started. We know that people start to roll in a little bit throughout the day. So just getting started here with our first actual Throughline Thursday. We've just restarted this event series after something we had actually been doing during the pandemic, where we were talking with lots of folks over the course of 2 years, actually, on social audio in Clubhouse, and restarting Throughline Thursdays here. So what is Throughline Thursdays? This is a live virtual event that we do each week where we cover a different topic that's part of a theme for the month. The theme for this month has been all about getting a startup notice in terms of getting your marketing and branding and all of that set in a solid foundation, and then getting that startup noticed by the people that you want to be part of your team, whether they're core team members, advisors, or board members and such, so that you have a strong focus. As we move into August, the theme will really be about how to get your startup more of the resources that it needs to be able to do what you're trying to accomplish. We'll be focusing on some of the financial resources, whether they're grants or not, or grants or loans, non-dilutive funding options, emerging funding options. We'll talk about crowdfunding. We have WeFunder coming, and we have some other great partners who are coming in the future to tell the story. So we have a weekly conversation for founders and primarily focus on climate tech founders. That's what Throughline Thursday is about. So the topic for today is actually building and growing your team, how to attract the right sort of talent through a really unique approach that is from a really great human and trusted partner who's worked with companies from 2 folks in a garage through Series C plus and go into exit. And when we want to talk a little bit about the challenge that we're seeing for founders, because right now, the challenge we're seeing from founders in the market is that money is tight. there are a lot of opportunities out there, but there's also a lot of competition for the talent that you need. People need top talent in startups, and you're going to compete with big companies and large corporations just as much as you are with other early stage startups. So there's got to be something about you that is interesting and unique that compels someone to invest their time and their treasure and that part of their career with you versus other places where they could be doing that work. So Mike's going to take us on a little bit of a framing of how he thinks about the problem and some of the companies he's worked with to address that problem. This is intended to be, though, a conversation. It's intended to be a conversation because these are intimate gatherings where we can talk about the challenges, and we could talk about what your specific challenges are. And some of the production team has some points, and Mike has some points, and we iterate together to get some of that out there. So with that, I've set the frame. I want to have an opportunity for our production team to say hello with Lena and Kirith, if you guys want to do that real quick, and then give the opportunity to Mike introduce himself and take it away. So, Lena, do you want to say hello?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Lena Sukumar here. Nice to be on this call. We've been having some amazing conversations over the last month or so with Throughline Networks. I myself am a marketing leader with expertise in product marketing, as well as I help startups as well as other companies scale and create marketing plans and execute on them. Nice to meet you all and excited to have Mike today.
Kirith, you want to say hello?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, all I'm off video today, but my name's Kirith Jones. Phil and I do a lot of work together, and have been co-hosting the clubhouse that Phil mentioned. And I'm really excited that we're picking up again and echoing Lena's thoughts that we've had some good conversations. I am a corporate governance and finance attorney, and I specialize in structuring and also helping people to create strategic plans and understand overall organizational development. I guess I'll stop there.
Outstanding. Thanks so much. Mike, I'll give you the floor. Take it away.
All right. Well, we're going to get started. Like, as Phil said, this is supposed to be as interactive as possible. I talk about this stuff all day long. And so really would love to bring some of your questions in to shape what we talk about. As I get started, I want to share a little bit about where I come from and where some of the information that I share comes from. So I started Red Circle 23 years ago in 2001. Can't believe it's been that long. And in the course of those 23 years, we have worked with the team, 33 startup teams, as they've gone from paper napkin through exit. And we've seen millions upon millions of dollars fundraise. We've seen thousands and thousands upon people being hired, and we've watched teams be shaped that are going to change the world or have changed. And what I always talk about changing the world, and I think that's an important thing to talk about as we kick off how we build these teams. So startup founders are special, special people. They have an idea that they're going to chase, and they think, I can change the world. Maybe just my part of the world, but I'm going to change the world. They take that paper napkin, it turns into a business plan. That business plan turns into a deck. We go look for a product market fit, and then we look for a little bit of money. And when we get that first check, we get empowered. We're like, all right, now we're really going to change the world, and I'm going to have to hire a team. But when we go hire that team, it turns into a bunch of bullet points on a job description that says, you need to have done this, you need to have done that. But all that vision is gone. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about, how do we take that day when we were lit on fire by our idea to change the world and use that to create a value proposition to bring people on board that are just as thrilled about that change in the world as we are. So when we think of a product or a service, we look for product market fit. It is, we chase it until we know what it is so that we can go put that in our deck and raise money and we can get our first clients. But what I talk about is employment value proposition. What is the proposition we take to the market to say, hey, we're going to come and we want these people to join our team and they want to join us back. The stuff I talk about is easy to explain and it's really easy to understand. But the problem is sometimes it's hard to implement because you don't see dollars attached to it right away. And it's a little, I guess fluffy is the word I'll talk about, right? When we're out there selling, we're selling technical merits of our product. When we're out there raising money, we're selling technical merits of our product or our service. But when we talk about alignment of people's values to our values, we get into the gray area. It's more psychology than it is hard science. And some of the things that I'll mention here is we've been in a partnership for 10 years with the University of Illinois, their psychology department. Every semester we have an intern that works with us and they do a literature review that goes to what goes to hiring great people or keeping great people in a startup. And we've learned a lot in those 10 years. Before I jump into how do we leverage psychology in building great teams, there's a video that I'm going to share that is going to change the way that you think about how you build your teams. So I can share, right?
You're a co-host, you should be able to.
All right, let's try that again. All right, let's try sharing again. All right, here we go.
Oh, and remember, next Friday is Hawaiian Shirt Day. So, you know, if you want to, go ahead and wear a Hawaiian shirt and jeans.
So I've seen Office Space millions of times. So a lot of people have seen this movie. So for those that don't, that is Lumberg. Our friend Lumberg runs Initech. And as he made that announcement to those people about their Hawaiian shirt, nobody was thrilled. Obviously, nobody's thrilled to work there. And Initech didn't have a bad product, and it's not bad to wear a Hawaiian shirt. They just didn't care for it as part of their culture because Lumberg or anybody else there didn't invest in the culture. Even if it's the coolest Hawaiian shirt ever, they're not going to care if they get to wear it that in jeans to the office because there's no feel for wanting to be there. And I didn't see a founder in the room there. Lumberg obviously wasn't, or he wasn't an impassioned founder. And so culture doesn't start with Hawaiian shirts or ping pong tables or work from home policies. That's something I'm making sure to highlight today and in the presentations I've been making around building teams, because I think we can get confused right now. Because if we go on to LinkedIn, every third article is about the argument about call to office and remote work and things like this. Well, Gallup recently did a poll and they said, hey, where do you want to work? They surveyed thousands of people. And yes, 30% of people said, I will never go to an office again. And that's cool. Stay at your house, do your work, commit your code, whatever you're going to do, right? But 70% of people said they wanted to be in an office in some fashion. 10% said 5 days a week. Those people, I don't, they'll find a place to work. Some people are going to work office 5 days a week. But the other one said between 1 and 4 days a week, I want to be with my team. And that goes to a survey by the American Psychology Association. They did a survey of people saying, what are you looking for in work? 93% of people said they want to be part of something that has meaning. 93% of people say they want to be part of something that has meaning. 82% of, in a McKinsey survey said they were looking, 82% of people said they were looking for a place where their work was going to have impact, but only 42% of the people said that their company's mission had impact. And if you bring that to what we talk about, right, in the startup world, all we talk about is impact. we talk about the impact we're going to have on the world. And if these people are starving for impact and meaning, that is where we can leverage. We can think about how we want to change the world. And we can leverage that into a value proposition for people to come and join us. And I wanted to make sure I shared those things because a lot of people talk about Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, right? Everyone's talking about, you got to know your why. You got to talk about your why. But no one tells you the why you need to know your why. And the reason why a founder and a company needs to know their why is because of the fact that people are looking for meaning. 70% of people in that survey said that they take their self-meaning. A lot of their self-meaning comes from the meaning they gain from work. And now if we take people that are that impassioned by what they do at work that becomes part of their self, now what if we take that and align their values to what we're doing? And that's how we can create highly impassioned teams. Some people I talk to are looking for a technical co-founder. They have this great idea, but they need this person to come in and do this. Or we're looking for the first enterprise salesperson. We're going to hand them the mantle to say, hey, you go be our mouthpiece to the world. But if they're not impassioned about what we're doing, how are they going to do it? And so we're walking into, Phil, you started this off saying that it's hard to hire people. It's hard to compete against the big guys, whether it's Google or Meta, or it's people that are big people in the specific space that we're working in. It is tough. And what makes it even tougher is the employment market. Unemployment has continued to be low, right? A stat that I state to people that is rarely stated. The Labor Department puts this out every month. In June, and this has been pretty consistent, for every job that is open in the United States, there are 0.7 people looking for a role. There's not enough jobs in the United States for people. In technology, the unemployment rate is 2.8%. It's very, very low. We have very little elasticity for these really smart people that we all want to hire. Then we couple all that with everything that we hear in the news that's scaring people about the job market. People are scared to leave their job. So we take low unemployment and we say, hey, people are scared to leave their job. Then it makes it really hard to hire, especially when we say, hey, we're looking for somebody to come in and be employee number 3 or non-founder employee number 1, or hey, we want them to leave 3M to come and work with us to change the world. But if we lead with roles and responsibilities, we're going to end up with those people that just wanted to click apply. Before I throw another slide up, I just wanted to see, Phil or anybody else, any questions on that first part about just laying out the landscape of employment?
Yeah, I think the landscape is really helpful. I've been there in a number of different environments and work with companies that are dealing with it right now. Thoughts that came to me were just thinking about a little bit about how I think you get to that. I was thinking about how do you build the meaning into the message and how do you break the mold? Because a lot of things, especially when you're trying to innovate on how to build a company, you go to the people who say, this is how you do it. You know, you learned it at a corporation, you did it a certain way. You learned it at a technology startup, they did it a certain way. Everybody says, here's the job description, and here's what I need in terms of the skills, and here's the wonderful benefits you get of being part of the company. But it feels like you're going to make a different. It feels like there's going to be a different sort of outreach to attract people to a company and say, I want to work there. That's a place for me. How do I get that? Because I want to be there. Or even tougher, I haven't heard of them at all. But you're going to trying to find that person when we're all using these tools like artificial intelligence or LinkedIn to try and find people, and everybody's trying to optimize for whatever they think that they should be talking about, but they're not really talking about those core things. So it seems like a cloudier, murkier environment to get the truth, so that I can lay out my truth and people can resonate with theirs. And I'm really curious about that. But I'm curious what other people thought or other questions come to mind in terms of trying to do that for yourself.
Hi, Mike. My name's Dr. Bailey. I'm the founder and CEO of AgriWater. We convert animal manure into clean water and commodities for farmers. My question is, for climate tech companies these days, what is like the general makeup of the workforce, whether it's, is there a mixture of in-person uh and virtual, are some teams like the manufacturing, teams kind of outsourced? What are you seeing across the board for kind of tech companies these days?
Yeah, awesome. Nice to meet you. And that
Nice to meet you.
is, I love the question around how you're going to build that makeup of where we work, because that's top of mind for people right now, is where we work. Manufacturing is a big one. My next door neighbor has a startup. They build parts that go on jets and private jets. And so the manufacturing facility, they have to be in person. They're there 5 days a week building these parts that keep planes in the air. Like, talk about mission critical work, right? I was talking with Phil before we got started that we're about to kick off some work with a company that reduces the carbon footprint of making cement. Like, what they're going to do is awesome, right? But they're doing physical chemistry, right? And so to what you're doing, right? You can't do this work from a Zoom screen. You have to be in person at least some of the days. And so what we'll talk about, so if we say, hey, with your work, if we're doing some of this clean tech work and it's physical chemistry that we have to be in person, we have to go to market and say, hey, who's going to be so jazzed by our work, it's not going to even matter. But there was a paper, and some of these papers, I have an email I can send to everybody afterwards. Some of these papers are say, there's a guy that works in the Workplace Institute at ADP, and he did some work, and he said people aren't looking for flexibility of where they work. They're just looking for flexibility of lifestyle. They're not saying, hey, I'm not cool with going, I'm cool with going to the office, but I still want to go to the kids' soccer game. Hey, I'm cool with going to the office, but are you going to get mad at me when I go on vacation? And being intentional about creating your culture and saying, hey, there ain't no bad. It's, hey, let's jam. Let's do this important work that's going to change how people live. And let's get our stuff done. And I saw a really interesting thing by, I can't remember which football coach it was, but it was the NFL football coach. He said that he tells every one of his coaches, if you miss a little league game, I will fire you. And I found that powerful. I felt that that's a way to build culture, to say, hey, let's do this work. Let's do this important work, but be your whole human self, because that's what people are looking for. They're looking to be their whole human self in order. And if you give them that space, you don't have to worry about the rules of how and when you work, because if you allow them to be the whole human self, they're going to get that stuff done. Phil raised his hand. Phil, you there?
I'm muted. There you go. Let me try this again. Something that popped up recently in conversation with a manufacturing company that was speaking to a little bit about what you guys were both talking about. They said, a lot of people think, 5 days, 5 by 8, 5 days a week, great way to do it. But he was talking about different schedules that allow for the flexibility that you're talking about. So he said, if I shift to a 4 by 10, I still get 40 hours a week. And all I have to ask people is come in a little earlier and stay a little later, 4 days a week. Then you always have 1 day a week off. And what they did in one company was they rotated the day of the week that was off. So one day it would be Friday, and the next week would be Thursday, and the next week would be Wednesday, next week would be Tuesday, and next week would be Monday. So you had flexibility in your monthly schedule to do things during your days off that because you're only really working 4 days a week. And it was a simple trade-off of being there a little bit longer. And they actually found that they were commuting less, right? And they also found that they wanted Wednesdays off to be at the Little League games. They just swapped shifts with other people. Well, it led to another cultural change, because if you need to be able to do different things with different people perform different roles on different days, well, now you need to be able to be cross-trained. So you weren't forcing people to be cross-trained in a manufacturing environment. People are actually doing it for the flexibility of culture and being able to be better coworkers, so everybody could do what they wanted without losing any productivity and not working any more hours during the week. So it's just one example of a more physical example. If you're running production, less than 40 hours a week, then you might be able to do training remotely and do even more innovative things with that. But I think the really thing that stuck with me was the creativity of the scheduling, creating all sorts of ability for you to live a culture and be very attractive place for people to work.
And on top of that, where we work, where we all work, right? So when we talk about 5x8 and 4x10, we sound like HR people from Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies, or those HR classes that people have to take, right? In OD and OB. But where we work, there's 5 people, there's 10 people, there's 50 people, right? And we get to think about the human being. And we can build our processes. We still want them to be scalable, right? Because we don't want to remain 5 people. But we can build our processes to take into account the humanistic factor and then allow that to scale to say, hey, we have this way that we swap out so that everybody can be their whole self at all times. And even when we get to 200 people, we're still going to be able to look and say, hey, at the center of our company is the human beings that build it. And that's what our culture reflects. So I love that they did that. But I think that founders should take a step back and say, hey, let's not even think 4x10 or 4x10 or 5x8. Let's think about what are our outcomes? Here are our key KPIs. We have 19 people to affect these 5 KPIs. Now, how do we just get shit done and make sure people can do really, really well? Anyone else? Because I can jump into a couple other things, because you talked about how they actually dug into the problem and how they talked about it. Anybody else have a hand up?
There's one question from Jay. I can read it out, unless Jay, you want to read it yourself.
Hello, everyone. Hi, this is Jay. I'm sorry I won't be able to share my company's name because it's still in the process of registration and trademarks. But so my question is regarding contrarian thinking. So I agree with all the details that all of you shared. But my question is regarding the contrarian thinking. And when you want to achieve something which will truly change the world, I think I struggle between 40 hours work week versus 24/7. That founder mentality, how to hire those people. So I understand, like, so my struggle is like, should I break the incentive structure into 3 ways? Let's say founder equities, leader equities, and full-time equities. What is the right approach to attract 24/7 people and at the same time work-life balance? I think, what is the right approach of managing both things? Thanks.
Got it. And so I'm glad you clarified at the end, because I was going to say, if you're working 24/7, the first thing you should do is take a step back and say, hey, this isn't scalable, because you're not going to be able to scale that even for yourself. 24/7 work doesn't exist. People will die.
I'm sorry. I have to clarify. When I say 24/7, that's like the mentality, not literally 24/7 work. Let's say.
Yeah, I totally hear you. And I actually was in this conversation with a VC here in Chicago last year, and I was challenging them on just that. They're like, we're working all the time. We're working all the time. And I'm like, and I said the same thing. It's impossible. You can't work all the time. He's like, and I asked a simple question, and we got to where you just said. I said, hey, when's the last vacation you went on? He's like, I was in Greece last month. I'm like, so you weren't working? He's like, but I was on. I'm on 24/7. Those are 2 different things, right? And this goes back to what we were talking about, is we're not hiring to roles and responsibilities. We're hiring to people that believe in your idea, Jay. Mm-hmm. You are on 24/7 because you invented this. You looked and said, hey, we're going to change the world. And if you go to market, and so in psychology, it's called PJ hiring, person to job hiring. And that's what most people do. And that's why most hires in tech last 1 year, 9 months. That's the average hire in tech stays 1 year, 9 months. As you're trying to build your company, they're halfway out the door. If we go and look at PO hiring, which is another version, this is person to organization hiring. If we look at value congruence as opposed to skill congruence, we're going to find the people that value what you value and say, hey, I want to do this. And so taking a phone call at 1 a.m. because it's from a different country, it doesn't faze them because they believe in what you're doing. And so if we start at PO and then check off on PJ is important. Having those knowledge, skills, and abilities that we need to hit the KPIs, we need those, but we have to take that step higher and find that value congruence so that they don't even realize they're on 24/7 because they're so thrilled by what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as I throw up a slide, it'll make more sense. And then I'm going to go into implementation. Like I said, talking about this stuff is easy. Implementation's a little hard. And that's exactly where your question was going from. And so if you have a follow-up as I present more, please jump back in.
Sure. Thanks.
So as I said, Jay just threw up a perfect idea out there talking about, hey, how do we find these people that believe in what we believe? And I was in a presentation 2 weeks ago. I was at a 40-person startup. They were split office. Part of their work is in Australia, where headquarters is, and they have a large piece in Chicago, where I live. And I ask the question that I do whenever I'm with a single team. I say, when you talk about changing the world in the way you are, what are the words that you use? There was 20 people in this room, and it was crickets, not a word. And then the CEO raises his hand. He's like, Mike, that's on me. And I was like, okay, tell me more, Jason. He's like, I've been so busy trying to do my job as a CEO. I haven't been doing my job as a CEO. I haven't been using those words with the team. And that's it's my fault. And I will change that. I'm like, wow. And I saw the eyes open up with his team, the humility that their CEO showed that he wasn't doing the work he should be. And he's like, and then he went further and he's like, here's the impact we're having on the world. The platform that we've built changed the way shift workers get their work and either can take a shift or not take a shift. And so, yes, it is a solution for people that hire a lot of hourly workers, but it allows hourly workers to have more flexibility in the hours they take or don't take. So we have impact on millions of hourly workers and how they can participate in life. And the room was just like, whoa, that's what we're doing. and so that it lit them up. And then we got into a conversation about where they work. Because what we're talking about is remote versus hybrid. But we had to start up there, the organizational value, and it opened things up. And so what I'm going to share again here. So this is when I do this presentation in person, this is the only piece of paper I hand out. It's usually the only slide that I have and probably the only thing that we'll share today. So employment value proposition. There's a very big name in recruiting. He's big in tech. He's worked with a lot of startups. His name is Lou Adler. He talks about employment value proposition until the cows come home. And then I take that and really bring it to the founder market. And I say it's all about your founding vision. If you don't start a founding vision, close the doors. It's about the founding vision. When you wrote on that napkin, you said you were going to change the world. Why did you start the company? Why did people write you a check? Or why should they write you a check? Why should employee number one join? Or why did they join? When we talk about, when we're in community, because we're not building companies, we're building community. And if we start thinking about building community, we talk about values, and we stop talking about the transaction of making a hire, and we talk about building community based on values, based on the impact that you're going to have on the world. Once you start having that, and what I invite everybody to do that is a founder or works with a founder is from here, take some time, get a piece of paper and write it all again. Go back to the napkin brain and write it all down. We're not editing, we're just puking onto the paper of what fulfilled my soul when I wrote it. Write it all on paper. We can craft later. Once you have all that down, then refine it into that value proposition. The next thing, make sure your leadership team that you have knows those words. Make sure they all talk in the same nomenclature when you're talking to customers, when you're talking within the team, and when you're talking externally. Then when we're in an interview, your team is equipped to talk in the impact that we're going to have. They know where you're going and to tell people where they're going. When they're out having dinner with their friends and they're like, hey, what do you guys do? And they light the room on fire. Someone's like, can I work there? What do you have? I don't know what job you have, but I want to work there, because they were prepared to light it on fire with the words that you had the day you started the company. Once you have that all on paper and you craft it into a value proposition, now you have to go to every one of the assets that you use for hiring. Careers page does not start with here's the jobs we have open. It starts with here's the impact we're having on the world. Here's why we started. Here's what we're doing. Here's the next 2 people we need to join. By the way, if you don't see a job you have open, but you believe in what we believe, hit me up. We'll set up some time to have a conversation. Maybe we have that in the roadmap, but would love to talk with you. Then same thing, it starts the job description. You lead with it in the job description so that when you go post it externally to Indeed or within your specific industry, it's not leading with, we're looking for a chemist with 3 to 5 years experience. You must have experience with electrochemistry. No, we are bringing new haptic technology that will be used in all AR, VR applications, allowing you to touch things that aren't even there. Oh, by the way, we need you to be an electrochemist. So if you lead with that vision in your website, in your careers page, and the external things, that's going to attract the people. Because when we look at building these teams, there's 2 pieces you need to look at. The attraction strategy, how do we get people to talk to? And then what Jay said, now we have a selection strategy. We're going to use the same lens. We're going to throw that same lens at the value proposition during selection strategy to say, okay, cool, we have these 10 people because we told them how we're going to change the world. Now we're going to use that same EVP to say, hey, are they supposed to be employee number 2? As we look at those KPIs, let's not think about what they need to be 5 years from now. What impact do they have to have in the first 90 days on our KPI list and in the first 6 months, the first 12 months to have this person join to help us grow to make that impact? So it all starts on this slide, but it all started wherever it was, napkin, whiteboard, speaking into Google, Google Voice, whatever it is. It all started there, and we lead there to find the people that are going to jump onto our vision to change the world. I'll stop there so I answer some questions.
Well, I have a few, but I hope I'm looking for people to come off mute first to see what they have to say. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I think I agree. I agree. So just to simplify, I think if I put on a spectrum, like one end is founder and other end is CEO. So, and I have to manage both ends, and that transition has to be like fluid. So when I'm trying to attract talent, I have to maintain both. Like as a CEO, I should be able to create the value. And I think I understand what you are trying to say here. And
Jay, can I ask you a question?
No, I think I agree.
You're separating the role of founder and the role of CEO. Can you talk to me a little bit about how and why you're separating those?
I see. So I think the founder mentality is like 24/7 thing, but at the same time, we have to understand that not everyone can be in that founder role. Sometimes people want to join as a company, let's say for 40 hours. Let's say they want to join as a job. So I should be able to manage both things. So that's what I'm trying to get out of what you are saying.
Jay, you're still in stealth mode. You said that at the top of your presenting your questions.
Yes.
If you hired somebody today in stealth mode that wasn't the quote unquote 24/7 thinking about your idea, that would be a mishire. So the reason I asked you why you were separating founder and CEO, so sometimes when I think about the CEO role, that E is executive. Sometimes I think it's a misnomer when we think about it as a founder, because I'm a founder as well. Executive means we have all these functions that report to us that as we grow, right? But it's also excitement, the chief excitement officer. Like as a founder, when we hire people on, we need to make sure they're excited and that they maintain excitement. Like we don't just hire them and let them sit there. As chief excitement officer / executive officer, we hire the right people, but then in our one-on-ones, when we go into our one-on-one, we're checking KPIs, but then we're checking excitement. We're saying, hey, all right, you've been here for 3 months. I promised you we're going to change the world. How are you feeling about that? Do you feel you're part of changing the world? You don't? Okay, let's talk about it. Let's figure out how we plug that in for you, because I want you to be as excited as I am. So in the early stages, that you are the executive officer, but you're also the excitement officer, because those early hires are so impactful. So when if you're a solo founder, when you make the next hire, you're going to double the size of your company. Then when you hire the next person, you got to increase your company by 50%. And so when you're increasing your company by those factors, the mistake is huge. So they have to be excited.
Absolutely. I really like the chief excitement officer and chief executive officer. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks.
This is Kirith. I have a question, Michael.
Yeah.
First of all, I really like your insights that you've shared so far. I think they're really important. And also, I particularly appreciate your noticing this difference between what a founder does and what a CEO does. And I think in my experience, what happens a lot in the startup world, in the certainly in the social enterprise impact world, this founder mentality gets conflated really with what makes a good CEO. And what makes a good CEO is somebody who knows how to build a sustainable organization, is in my opinion, right? And so it does feel to me like setting your values up front, showing your values up front are critical pieces to that. And I just wonder, like, I do a lot of sort of gender lens investing and intersectional investing. And one of the things that we talk about in that context is that if you are truly to have impact, it must be a holistic approach to that impact. That even if you're creating the world's newest, best technology, if you're only hiring employees who are willing to sacrifice all of their lives or most of their life to be on board with you, then that's not a sustainable thing, and that's not actually changing the world. And I'm just sort of wondering if you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot in there to unpack, because you were talking about the CEO piece. And I thought of, I've tracked Facebook from the early days. And I thought for sure Zuck was going to be out. Like every year, I'm like, he's going to be out. He's going to be out. He's going to be out. But he's evolved, right? Did he think he wanted to be presenting in front of Congress? No. But he's grown as the company's grown. And sometimes people don't have that. Sometimes as you need more of a business leader, you'll see a CEO and the founder still be there. Sometimes they'll take a chief strategy officer or chief technology officer, because you do need to scale with that. And so there's that piece. But to what you said, if we're asking people to work 24/7, we're really not changing the world. So when I think about 24/7, I think about investment banking. Like when kids come out of their MBA program and go to IB, they know they're signing their life away. They know it, right? That why do they do it? There's the number one reason why they go into IB. They want the cash. That is the number one reason they do it. They're at a point in their life where they're like, hey, I can sign my life away right now. I want the cash. And they go do it. Blue chip law firms, those people work their butts off, they sign it away, and they know it. I won't say, I have a lot of friends that are partners in blue chip law firms. Are they changing the world? No. When we get bigger, do we need blue chip law firms for us to change the world? Absolutely. Is IB changing the world? I mean, investment banking supports everything that is in our economy, but they're not making novel impact. So when we're making novel impact, we're looking for the people that, again, have that value alignment, but at the same time, we balance that founder hat and the CEO hat. As a CEO, we know there's all those functions in the business that we need to make work. And can we make them work without having people work 15 hours a day? Because working 15 hours a day isn't sustainable. That's why people leave IB. That's why, some of my friends that are partners in these large firms, the other part of their life isn't as valuable. There's a book called How Will You Measure Your Life? It's probably that bookshelf there. And it's written by somebody that graduated from his B school, was at Harvard. And when he went to I think it was his 10-year reunion, he was depressed because he said when they left, they all had visions for changing the world. That's the foreword of the book. He's like, we all these visions for changing the world. And I got to the reunion. This guy was divorced. This woman had a drinking problem. And he went to school with skilling from Enron. He's like, and one of my friends was in jail. And I was wondering how we went wrong. And his research and his PhD and in his book goes and looks at how, as a society, we tell people how to measure their life. As founders, we have this unique position and powerful position to say, hey, this is how we would like you to measure your life. We want you to be a whole human here and there and allow you a place to excel at your craft here, but then also excel at that place of whatever else you could do.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, I actually like that you use the example of blue chip law firms because I worked at Cleary Gottlieb on Wall Street for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I will say actually that I do think Cleary changed the market in which it operates by
Awesome.
decision to change its law practice management and its employment practices because, it had always been, and I don't want to get too deep into it, but it had always been up or out, which is the traditional way of investment firms and blue chip law firms. And Cleary Gottlieb, two things. One, they have a lockstep payment for their associates and for their partners because they recognize that some partners are rainmakers, some partners need to be, the back office expert on the 40 Act, right? And they recognize that those things have equal value. And then the other thing is that they changed the way that lawyers could stay working in the blue chip law firms. And there are a few other firms, not the majority, but there are a few other firms who've started to do this, which is that they recognize this up or out structure creates a brain drain because you have really intelligent, really motivated, really passionate, skilled people who leave because of that lifestyle. So
Yeah.
why don't we change the way that we require them to show up to work so that they will show up to work for the next 20 years?
That's amazing to hear. That's cool that there was a firm that was very intentional about it because as you say, that brain drain, right? There's all these studies where they say, hey, heterogeneous teams make great product or make great service, but we create this up or out lifestyle where there's studies on people that want to go be a mom and it's like, oh, I can't go do that and maintain this lifestyle at the same time. And so it's really cool to hear a story where someone was intentional to say, hey, you can be you and still be here. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that I really try to sort of highlight and focus on when I'm when I'm advising founders in small companies is that if you're coming from an equity perspective, you really do need to create employment structures that allow for a diversity of people with a diversity of lives to participate in what you're doing. And if you're only requiring one type of person, you're not going to get diversity of not only like identifiable human being parts, but also of thought, very importantly, of thought. And you really need, when you're trying to change the world, when you're trying to build a product that is not like what has been done before, you need diversity of thought. And
Absolutely.
one of the good ways, or one of the really strong ways to achieve this is to recognize that the employment policies and strategies and structures need to shift.
Yeah, absolutely. That's cool. Anyone else?
And while you guys were commenting, I noticed that I saw that at some big consulting firms too. I remember McKinsey and some of the big ones back in the day used to be up or out for everything. And they've shifted to having more of these different non-consulting, non-up or out roles so that you could get people who are fantastic for the organization to have a way that they were incentivized and monetized to stay. And I wanted to comment on that. And then just like, to make it, to just think about something out loud. Like I've been a solo founder, a co-founder, an early executive, and a teammate at startups. I've done all four of those positions. And it seems like there's something we didn't talk about yet, like the balance of talking about where you are as a company or an organization versus where you aspire to be, and how you kind of communicate that so that people don't feel like there's a like a bait and switch. Like I know I'm always very clear with people when we're doing hiring interviews where we are. I don't want somebody to show up and be surprised and then they're like, oh man, I got to be here for a certain period of time and it not be what they expected. And I've been alongside of employees or teammates when we're in the fight. And sometimes it's hard to see the path to the vision because we're like, you're on the path, you're in the fight, and you're just like standing next to each other trying to solve a problem that you don't know how to solve, or dealing with a big financial hurdle when the company's kind of run low on money or out of money. Was like my first week as a startup CFO. I had to tell people that we ran out of money because I opened the bank account. I was like, hey guys, where'd all the money go? I just started here. And, that was a leadership challenge. But I think there's something about here's where we are, here's where we aspire to be, that actually, I don't know, it sounds like it's an opportunity in the hiring process to show some more of the core values, whether it's authenticity or the openness that you talked about with the CEO you talked about. I mean, how do you suggest that people tackle that balance?
It is, man, I'm trying not to just sound cliche as I say words, but the words that are coming off the dome are just that. Because I got openness and authenticity there, right? I keep on talking about founding vision. It's something I feel very passionate about. And so I think the first thing is sitting down with that person and saying, hey, I want you to know where we started as a founding group, where we've gotten, and where we're headed. So this is how we started. This is how we got here. And you're going to be a part of how we get there. And this is what it's going to look like. And it's not going to all be pretty. It's not going to all be pretty. There are things that happen in early stage companies that just don't happen in enterprise. And when people come to their first startup, they don't know what's going to happen. It's the founder or leadership's team's responsibility to walk them through that. But like you said, it is an opportunity. So one of the things that happened to an early stage company is someone will ask, hey, what's the career path for this role? And I always think it's funny, right? So, someone's interviewing with the founder of a 6-person company, like, hey, what's the career path? But as a founder, we have to be ready to answer that question. And I have a small talk track that I use to build out how I use it for every founder. Like, listen, you're joining a growth stage company. Right now, it's all hands on deck. We're all throwing down to go on this journey. And so the first thing is you should be prepared for all hands on deck. When we buy new desks, we're going to break out the Allen wrenches and put those desks together. Are you down for that? Because if you're not, you might not want to be employee number 6. And in career path, your next role that you're going to take doesn't exist. I can't tell you what your next role is going to be. I can conjecture. I can tell you that you will probably be the director of customer success. But that is me making an assumption today in this final interview that you're going to grow at the level that the company is and that I see in you. And when we need a director of customer success, you're going to be my first conversation. And if you and I decide that it should be an outsider to lead that function, we'll go that way. But your next role, your career path is going to be on this journey with us. And you might decide to leave customer success. You might say, hey, we need our first HR person. And I've been taking an HR class on Cornell Online. Can I post for that job? In a startup, you have that ability to grow within the company and go outside of your lane. It's an opportunity, but also it's a responsibility. But the first responsibility is on the founder or the vision leaders to walk them through what that looks like so they know what to expect. They know what the pitfalls are and they know what the opportunities are. And when they hit that gate of opportunity, they know they can go left or right.
Well, that's a great way to, a great point for ending, because so shockingly, that hour went super fast. It's 2 o'clock and we try to start and end this a little bit on time. So the first thing I want to do is thank Mike for his time, and second, thank everybody for showing up and for sharing your great questions. It's great to see you, and it's great for the conversation that we had. I'll give Mike a second to prepare a parting thought, but I just want to share with everybody a couple of things. We are going to save this recording and we're going to link it to our website so that all the Throughline Thursdays, all these hourly conversations about all these different topics are available for everyone. We're also put together this thing that we're calling our digital goodie bag, so that if Mike has a slide or a takeaway or an offer, he can put it in there, and at any time you can go through the link through our registration or through our site and get into the digital goodie bag to engage with us. We're doing these every Thursday from generally midday from 12 to 1 Pacific, and I have a number of topics coming up in the near future. We're talking about debts and loans for early stage founders. We're talking about grants and non-dilutive capital for early stage founders. We're talking about crowdfunding with an expert from WeFunder. Towards the end of the month, we'll have a guy from PitchBook on doing some climate tech recap of what's going on in the market, and also some folks from Wilson Sonsini who are partners of ours who are going to talk about structure and organization and legal pitfalls for early stage companies. So stay tuned, bring a friend, and thanks so much for coming. Mike, you have any sort of parting shots for everybody?
No, the only thing I'll say is if you like what you heard today, take that time, go take all that stuff in your brain about how and why you started the company and where you're going, and go write it out. Go find some alone time, write it all out again, and then take that value proposition and put it into those hiring assets. A lot of times we forget to do it, but just go drain your brain onto a piece of paper and build those assets.
I can tell you, it's hard, but it's essential hard work.
Yeah, it is. Well, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate you.
Yep.
Thanks again,
Thank
Mike.
you so much.
Everybody. Thanks for coming. We'll see you next week. And please do reach out if you have any other questions or follow-up items for everyone. We'll make sure that Mike's information is available, and we'll always be around. Take care, y'all.
Thank you so much, everyone.
much.
It was
Yeah.
wonderful.